Riverside project, yeah, we're rocking and rolling here. We got a lot to talk about today, but I think before we get into our typical progress tour, I wanted to talk about windows and doors specifically. You can see all the windows and doors are installed here. For all of the windows and doors, we're using a Schuco product. It's their aluminum frame. It's a thermally broken triple glazed window. They're fabricated in Slovakia. We source them through a company, European Architecture Supply, literally down the street here in the Northeast. So let's start talking by one of my favorite pieces of window and doors that we can get from Schuco. So lift and slide doors, right? It's basically a sliding door. It's called lift and slide door because the door actually, when we rotate the handle, you'll see it comes up on wheels, and we have the ability to move a pretty heavy door. I mean, this whole unit is about 1,000 pounds. The door probably accounts for maybe about 400 pounds of that. The hardware is just pretty amazing hardware in that you have the ability to just simply rotate this handle. And when you rotate the handle, it's hard to see, but basically the door comes up about 1/8 of an inch and it gets placed on the wheels. And then that just allows me to have, fingertip movement of the door. This is what we would call an asymmetrical lift and slide. And one of the beauties is you can drop that door down on the weather strip and you can get the full weight, and you really can't move that door at all. It really needs to be up on those wheels to have the ability to move. But what I was saying is it's an asymmetrical door, so we have the door at roughly about 3.5 feet. The remaining portion of the door here is just a little bit over 10 feet. And the main reason for that is I tried to get the large piece of glass to complement the corner, and knowing that our television alcove for the living room is over here to my left, that means most of the furniture is going to get placed out in this area. So there's this assumed corridor that moves in front of the TV here. So the likelihood of putting the door there and having it be very efficient, it just makes sense to put it kind of at the end of that assumed corridor. As you can see here, the room is complemented with a series of fixed panel windows. We don't have a whole lot of operable. We have that one there, and we have some at the other end of the room. And that does have insect screens. They're just not installed at the moment. But let's dive a little deeper into the numbers. So here we have a fixed window. It measures about 7 foot square and change. The glass here, or what we would term the IGU, it stands for insulated glazing unit. It's the glass unit that gets put inside the aluminum frame that basically makes the window. Now, when you look at a window, the glass is the more efficient, energy efficient part of the window assembly. The frames are the weak part. So when I look at these numbers, there's this what's called COG. That's 0.105. What that's measuring is the U value at the center of the glass. And so it's stating that basically the glass, if we take the reciprocal of the U value, we get the R value, which is what most people understand when you're talking about energy efficiency and insulating value, is the resistance value, or R value. That center of glass is basically R10. But if I look at the actual number of the overall unit, you see that the number goes down to 0.127, or basically goes up, which means the R value number comes down. So if I take the reciprocal of that 0.127, I'm getting a window assembly that's right around R7.8. Now, that's still a really good number for a window this size, but understand that the ratio of glass to frame is very high in this window. If we go next door here to its counterpart, this window is roughly about half the size of that window. But notice that the 0.127 has now risen to 0.139. And the reason for that is, again, the ratio of frame to glass here is much higher, right? In that there's more frame in this window relative to the glass area than the glass ratio to frame area there. So that 0.139 now takes this window down to about 7.1. So we lose a little bit of R value. Still, both are extremely, efficient in that the code here for climate zone 5 in the Northeast, we're looking at about a 0.30 requirement, which is basically R3. So, we're 2.5 times the efficiency in these windows that we would find in a typical domesticated code-built product. Now, if we move down here and we look at this, this is an operable window. And by operable, what I mean is, if I turn the handle 90 degrees, I can turn the window in and I have full access to cleaning the window on the outside. Notice that there's multiple locking points on this. So in addition to the fact that they have very good insulating value, they have extremely exceptional air tightness values in that, all of these houses are rated for passive house standards. If I close the window and continue to rotate it another 90, then I get the tilt-in venting option. The window tilts in about 7 inches. Now I know some of you are probably thinking, yeah, that really doesn't open the window, Steve, but honestly, in a house that is as efficient as we're going to have here and as airtight as we're going to have, that space there is way more than adequate to vent this space because it's not competing with other leaks around the house. That is pretty much the window open. But the issue here is not only do we have the frame of the window, but we now have introduced a sash, and then the IGU gets placed in the sash gets placed inside the frame. So it's almost like having double the frame with the single amount of glass. So you can see that that number now has risen to a 0.174, which is roughly about R5.8, R6. So we've given up, basically 1.5 points from our large fixed window over there to go down to a smaller tilt-turn version. But even at 5.8, it's still a very exceptional product. And the other thing I wanted to point out that never changes regardless of the size or operation is, notice that the visual transmittance here. Now, visual transmittance number is based on a scale of 0 to 100, 100 being perfectly clear glass, no tinting, no visual obstruction, no visual degradation in looking through the glass. It's basically clear glass. When you start putting films on the different layers of the triple glazing or double glazing, because every window, whether it's double or triple glazed, is still going to have a visual transmittance number. That number starts to decrease or fall below 1. You want to try and keep that number above 0.5. Now, the Senko band glass that we use here, they do an exceptional job in that they still provide us with the R10 center of glass, but the U value or the visual transmittance is up there at 0.74, and that's consistent around. It doesn't really matter what size because it's measuring the clarity of the window and the glass system there. And all these glass systems are the same. The thing that changes is the size and or whether or not it's a fixed unit or not. The other thing about these windows are they are a little heavy. I mean, even this small little window here, 87 pounds. When we walk down here, we talked about that lift and slide being 1,000 pounds. This one here, this is about 530 pounds. Now, we have one other option that we've utilized in this house. You see we have the fixed, we have the lift and slide door, we have the operable. If we take a quick walk into this room here, you'll notice that one of the beauties of using the European windows is that they're all made to order. So there is no custom, there is no off the shelf. It's, we place the order, they get the extrusions, they cut the extrusions to the length that we need, and then they fabricate the window to whatever dimension I want. I mean, I can call for this window to be 7 foot 8 3/16, and they have no problem. There's no more cost in making that than there is making it at 7 foot 8. To them, it's just a number that they're going to cut by, that the computer uses to set their system up. But in this window here, notice center glass, visual transmittance stays the same. We go up to 0.144, so we drop that point again. But here we mix the large fixed window with the operable sash on the side here. So it's a really good use if you're, you know, in an office like this where you want to have that nice beautiful view to the river, but you still want to have a venting option in the system. We could put the venting option on the less desired side of that window opening. And we get the best of all worlds. We get the cleaning, the tilting, and venting, but then we get the large fixed window here. So, anyways, we'll shut the window on that, and yeah, that's our video for today. That's all the little tidbits about the triple glazed windows we're using out here at our Riverside project. Again, sourced by European Architectural Supply. These are Schuco aluminum framed windows, thermally broken, triple glazed, and they look good. So until next time, Steve Basic Architect.